Well, good morning, good evening, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at SpeedGaming for the continuation of our Metroid Prime 2 Echoes Mentor and Mentee tournament. My name is Marion, and I'm joined here with a fellow friend, Rico. How are you today, Rico? You doing all right?
I'm doing all right. Excited to watch the third read seed of the day.
Absolutely. With Reed's been on a bit of a hot streak lately, generating our tournament races for us. So many thanks to him and everyone responsible for getting these events set up. With that being said, though, we are in round 2 of our mentor tournament. Over the last 6 weeks, mentees have been going at each other head to head with different mentors, learning new skills and abilities to prepare them for the upcoming brackets. And we've got a good bracket tonight. We've got JhavA versus Steve. An interesting combination. Now, again, since this is the actual bracket, no mentor assistance will be provided. These runners are on their own for today.
And we are off in the race room, so it should be starting on stream momentarily.
All right. Now, Rico, what can we expect for the settings today?
Well, for settings, we have a couple RAs. Let me pull up the list. Today we have New Patcher and Multiplayer items. New Patcher changes the layer of a couple rooms in the GFMC loop, as well as randomizing the color puzzles in Sync, and allowing for the racers to use multiplayer colors on their suits if they so choose. And first item is a Power Bomb expansion, with a hint for Emerald Translator.
Absolutely. Emerald can be located up to 3 rooms away from Aegon Map Station. Aegon Maps near Mining Plaza, so that could include A, Mining Plaza, B, Mining Station Access, or 3, it could be in Mining Station A. So we've got
and we are entering the Splinter fight with that Power Bomb that makes this a whole lot easier.
That is one of the best items these runners could have hoped for this early fight. There's not too many ways to quick kill Albert here. Thankfully, Power Bombs is one of them.
If you're playing vanilla, do not do what JhavA just did.
No, you will. You want to explain why, Rico?
So, there's a lot of early bosses that were not programmed to have a resistance to Power Bomb, and both forms of the Splinter are one of them. And we have Morph Ball Bombs on Alpha Splinter, which is very nice because that gives us this room right here. But the reason you don't want to use a Power Bomb on the first form is because the Power Bomb deals more damage than the Splinter has health. Which means that the Splinter will just essentially be erased and there's nothing for the game to possess, and you are soft-locked in that arena.
Hope you like staying in the Temple Sanctuary because you're not going to be able to leave.
Yeah, so the randomizer thankfully removes that soft lock potential, so you can use a Power Bomb on just the normal Alpha Splinter.
And speaking of Power Bombs, we're going to be putting those to great use later on against the Bomb Guardian, and possibly going for Dynamo Chamber or we might go for Communications Area if these runners so desire some early checks. But first off, we're going to use our handy dandy missile expansion to get a light ammo expansion. Now, since we don't have missile launcher, technically speaking, we're not allowed to use missiles. Never mind, there's missile launcher.
So that is accessible because they have normal bombs.
Absolutely.
So JhavA choosing just to ignore it, as with that expansion, there's no need to pick it up.
What were we talking about? Logic? Yeah, never mind about that.
Yeah, so the randomizer does not consider expansions for progression. It just considers the main launcher, because in the base game, you're not allowed to fire missiles or lay power bombs if you don't have the main launcher.
And just a side note, Accursed Lake has a life support system. There's a slim chance it could be a light suit, although it very well could be an energy tank.
We have Steve electing to grab that launcher, which... So, this game is a lot more forgiving than the first Prime game when it comes to drops, in that echoes will usually give you what you don't have. But in the case of missiles, that doesn't kick in until you have a max of at least 10 missiles.
And
So it's generally a good idea to grab 2 missile expansions as soon as you can.
I completely agree. Especially with Echoes giving you mostly of what you're missing. That's, in my opinion, that's one of the better reasons compared to what they do with Prime. As when you try Prime, you're just hoping for good drop luck. But Prime's still a great game. But when you're out of power bombs, yeah, good luck trying to find some more of them. Alright, so we've checked location number 1, Mining Plaza. We didn't get a good look at it on the restream, so we can't confirm where Emerald is. Never mind, we've just confirmed where Emerald is here on Mining Station Access. I've got to learn to wait before I talk.
Sometimes I wonder why we speak.
You know, I've been wondering the same thing, Rico. I wonder what happens if we just stay silent the entire race.
They probably find no progression.
Well, this will be the longest restream in SpeedGaming's history, probably. At least for a Metroid-related stream. But I'm a talkative chap, so I'm not going to do that. We're going to... Unfortunately, or fortunately, you're stuck with our alluring voices for the remainder of this race.
I did not get a good look at what's in Mining Plaza, but I think Steve did.
Well, you better hope so, because that Mining Plaza item is only accessible by either A, an extremely difficult out of bounds, or B, we need to defeat a Morbus first. And we do not want to fight any bosses that we don't have to.
And we have JhavA electing to do Bomb Guardian before the Dark Aegon loop. With no Dark Beam or Spider Ball, this does strike me as likely the more lucrative play.
I do think this is a better option. Yes, you could do the Jump Guardian loop already, but getting to a little bit of extra checks beforehand, you're really hoping to find an E-Tank for the Dark Aether energy. Maybe you're trying to find a Dark Beam so you're getting Cash 4 on one trip, or you just get your Light Beam to make Jump Guardian a little easier.
Now, Bomb Guardian here is another early game boss that is incredibly weak to power bombs, but there's a little hiccup here in that it's not always vulnerable. The easiest way to get it into a vulnerable state is to just stand still when the fight starts, and it is vulnerable to power bombs when it charges. Alternatively, you can get yourself picked up and thrown around. That works too.
Well, nice recovery by JhavA pulling off a 2-cycle and with that power bomb miss. And in exchange, we get a handy-dandy missile expansion. We're up to a total of 20.
Personally, I would have left that right there.
You would have just left the missile behind?
Yeah, if this item is nothing, I think it's worth it just to leave it, because you have the possibility to both dupe Dark Missile Trooper later, and it does not change the layer in Mining Station A. So if you come across Space Jump, you can always just use the War Wasp Hive to get that item a little early.
Oh, interesting theory there. Yeah, we went over to Aegon Energy. Unfortunately, due to the lack of Amber, we can't get that translator hint. But we do see that's just a missile expansion, which we did indeed collect. The more expansions you have early, sets you up for a great late game.
And Steve is mostly just following along the same route that JhavA's taken. There's not really much room for diversion here so far.
No, unfortunately, early Echoes is extremely linear. You're going to find a handful of the same items. Your route's mostly going to be the same, and you're not going to see much change until you've done a majority of Aegon, and you have access to your Torvus and Sanctuary loops.
And Steve gets the quick kill on Bomb Guardian. Had me worried a little. I thought he dropped that power bomb late.
Yeah, personally, my favorite way of doing Bomb Guardian, just instantly morph, roll so Bomb Guardian grabs you, and lay a power bomb just before getting grabbed. It guaranteed to work all the time.
And power bombs making short work of those dark troopers on JhavA's side.
Speaking of short work, we're probably going to see this puzzle be skipped just a little bit.
Now, the fun thing about this puzzle is that the game actually only checks to see if the third lens is lowered, because it assumes you have to lower the first two in order to lower the third. Now, that is not the case at all. We're likely to see JhavA skip lowering that second lens by, just jumping to the platform. If you have space jump, you can slope jump up here and not even lower the first lens. Alternatively, you can also break that sandstone block with screw attack if you get it early.
As we enter Dark Aegon for the first time, we do have to play a little safe as we have 0 E-tanks and no Dark Suit. It's going to be fun trying to go for Jump Guardian, but we should be okay if we move fast enough. Now, the sad thing is
entirely in logic, because the game wants you to go here vanilla without basically anything.
Yeah, absolutely. But my main concern is we're leaving Incash 4 behind. And unfortunately, throughout this entire tournament so far, Incash 4 has proven to be very lucrative at times.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's probably better to do this now so you can do Temple Grounds in one loop.
No, I agree. Absolutely do this now. You have 3 checks you can pull off from it. You're opening to get a check at Crossroad. You're opening Aegon's Transport Center. The Jump Guardian itself is defeated. You get the information for Junction Site, and you get the Broom Closet out of the way. So even though you can't collect the items, having knowledge and information is always going to be your best bet. And by having that knowledge and information, you know where it is, you know how you can route it back later, so you're not struggling to find, hey, wait a minute, I remember that from earlier. I can get there now without much of a time loss. And like the good person JhavA is, we are leaving that Lightbringer alone, and we are not going to show any harm to it.
That is obviously the wrong choice.
You know, we've had the same discussion before, Rico. I don't think we should entertain it again, but you're entitled to your opinion, even though it's wrong.
Ah.
That Lightbringer's just trying to provide you help and safety.
It tends to provide me with death.
Well, that's probably because you roll into it and it pushes you off the bridge.
I will not confirm or deny that incredibly true statement.
Yeah, but here we see JhavA playing, again, a little bit safe. We want to get some energy before moving into Battleground. Not Battleground, we're going to Trial Tunnel. But still, same concept. We want that health so that we can make it there safely. And due to the lack of space jump, we have to rely on bomb jumps, and those take time.
And JhavA is cutting it incredibly close, but technically only 1 unit of health is mandatory.
Oh, JhavA, down to 2 health in that last roll. You know, it'd be nice to see. Nope, that
is unlimited missiles.
Well, we did put multiplayer items in the pool.
Fun fact about unlimited missiles. It doesn't count as a missile launcher. So if you pick it up with required mains on and you haven't found your missiles, you still can't fire any missiles.
And Steve is having fun with the Lightbringer, it seems. But we are not showing it any harm. But no, with multiplayer items, there's a handful that are thrown into the pool that both runners can collect along their journey. Number one, we have unlimited missiles. Two, unlimited beam ammo. And three, my personal favorite, we have double damage. All three of them self-explanatory.
Okay, now for those of you wondering why JhavA is firing at the statue, it turns out that the hurt box for Jump Guardian is already loaded into this room before you trigger the fight. So you can just sit here in relative safety and unload into the boss before the fight starts. This is both safer and faster than fighting the boss because Jump Guardian has all those semi-invulnerable phases where it jumps across the map. Now, as a little safety check, you actually cannot kill the boss without triggering the fight. Even if you do all of its health, it will still require you to hit it twice after you initiate the battle.
Which,
And
thankfully,
very
that
nicely
flag
done
is
by
there.
JhavA.
Oh, that flag is such a helpful hand.
Annihilator Beam. Okay,
Well,
that is very interesting.
Well, at least we have logical dark access without needing to use a scan portal, which is nice. But the problem is, how do we put that to use currently? There's not really a good option for that. We don't have light beam. We don't have dark beam. There's not really a good portal we can use to make this play work.
So it depends on what comes up in the Temple Grounds loop. Because I'm imagining that Space Jump is in Temple Grounds, and that is our logical entrance into Dark Labs.
Now, that makes sense. I like it, but my concern is, even if we do enter dark labs, we hard require dark beam to get back into light labs. There's no save station we can take. Now, once we enter doomed entry, you got a dark beam door on the right leading to the light portal, and then you get the light beam door on the left leading to where Incash 3 is, with a super door after Battleground. So without that, it's going to be a tough time.
Now, it's hideous, but I have seen Randomizer place beams in doomed entry quite a lot.
Okay, that would just be mean. That'd be really mean.
And Steve is following mostly in JhavA's lead, dealing with largely the same route.
Yeah, I think Steve did. Nope, I'm thinking differently. And speaking of differently, there's nothing else we can do here in Aegon without Space Jump. At least logically speaking. Either that, or we would have needed Light Beam to get into, a Ventilation Area A for that check. Granted, we have a Power Bomb expansion, but not the main, so Sanctuary Spider is out of the question. So now, let's go for Temple Grounds Loop. Let's get DMT and Hive Chamber B out of the way. Let's get into Temple Grounds for Compound. But in order to get Compound, we need either Space Jump Screw Attack, or we need that main Power Bomb for logic access.
Wyvern Dark Beam could not be in Cache 1 because on the outside, Cache 1 is a Dark Beam door. On the inside, it's a Light Beam door.
Alright, now step 1, we're going for the Dark Missile Trooper. A fun little mini-boss that most people forget. Including myself, I've completely forgotten this boss exists multiple times.
Now, one of the cool things about DMT is that in vanilla, it doesn't drop a missile expansion, it drops a second missile launcher. So there's speculation that this boss was originally how you were supposed to get your missile launcher, and that the Ing possessing this corpse was the Ing that stole your original one.
I do sort of like that logic. But then again, you have the missile launcher, you have the missile door leading to Bomb Guardian, forcing the empty spawn requirement. Unless that was never supposed to be a missile door in the first place.
Never know.
Yep,
But I believe DMT had Sonic Boom for us today. And Spider Ball in Hive Chamber B.
I appreciate the Sonic Boom, but DMT had our space jump on it, my friend.
Oh, it did? Awesome.
Yes, it did.
That's even better.
Jump. And JhavA's taking a handy-dandy save warp. We're going back to Temple Sanctuary. And let's see. This will give us quick access to enter.
No, nothing silly with RA Skamir. Just the new patcher and multiplayer pickups.
On the other side of your race today, looks like Steve has just finished their Dark Aegon loop. They've defeated Jump Guardian and Trial Tunnel, and now are going through Transit Station to get this missile expansion before continuing into the DMT loop, following the same steps that JhavA's made. And due to the fact we have Emerald Translator, this puts that at the save station A here into Logic, but it's just a missile expansion, so we're not too phased over it. All right, Rico, honest opinion. How useful do you find Sonic Boom to be?
I find it very useful. So Sonic Boom has a very unique thing in that it bypasses Grapple Guardian's invulnerability phase. So while it's doing its pain animation during its transition from Phase 1 to Phase 2, with Sonic Boom, you can kill Grapple Guardian before it finishes its transition.
You know, I never knew that. You learn something new every day around here. No, I just usually go with the Sunburst method and burn them. Alrighty, but it looks like we're not going for the GFMC compound loop. JhavA's aiming to go right back into Aegon.
Well,
the
only thing in logic in the GFMC loop is communications area. It probably would be worth it to check that, though. But on the other hand, with that space jump, Dark Labs is... well, Light Labs is completely open, and if you want to risk being stuck, you can check Doomed Entry.
Yeah, no, I personally, I wouldn't advise Doomed Entry unless we take a safety save nearby. And then, yes, you get the information off of it. But more likely than not, if I had to throw out with what we currently have, I'm really betting on Storage D having a vanilla Dark Beam.
Yeah, that is very likely with our current loadout.
But what gets me is that Annihilator's really throwing me for a curveball.
Alternatively, it could be something like Amber that's in labs, and the entire... you gotta go through labs to get that to come back here to open up Sand Cache.
Yeah, that would make sense as well, yeah. Well, we just gotta wait and see what the game decides to throw at us today. And with that terrible seed hash name, we can only imagine. And here's your friendly health and safety warning. Please do not stand too close to Phazon crates without proper personal protective equipment.
You see, this is why it was a bad idea for Pirate High Command to cut funding to OSHA.
Well, to be fair, OSHA kept giving them fines, and, well, they're pirates, so, you know, they don't really do too well with being told what to do. And by the way, those are main power bombs sighting in Central Mining. So we have Spider Ball, which allows us to crawl up this spider track here in Central Mining to get main power bombs.
That puts the GFMC loop in logic.
Well, there we go. We've just connected the chain. But
Now
JhavA, you
that
do have
cannon
to
is, yeah, it's not active. You have to reload the room. Though it looks like JhavA is going for a scan dash to get it.
Well, looks like they might be bypassing it for now. Nope, just doing the room reload. Oh, I guess we'll come back to this later.
And we do have a little bit of divergence on Steve's side, as it appears that he is going to check the GFMC loop now.
Well, knowing that power bombs are accessible with our current equipment, this very well could hide something major for him. But light ammo is definitely not it. But that's okay. Maybe this communications area has something for us.
It does. Seeker launcher.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty useful.
Logically, Seekers don't do a lot for us right now.
Yeah, they do absolutely zilch. They do nothing. Not a gosh darn thing.
We're looking for either Dark Visor or Boost Ball to give us a use for those Seekers.
Well, how about an Amber translator?
And Steve attempting to trigger the cutscene and instead triggering gravity.
Yeah, cutscene's a little further back, right where the actual cliff is.
Battlegrounds is a life support system, so that could be a suit.
Yeah, looks like Steve took the risk here and it paid off tremendously. Seekers and Amber. I mean, so we'll get Sand Cash immediately upon returning to Aegon for the labs loop, followed by some translator hints. Now JhavA's going to come across the same thing momentarily. Looks like they've decided to dip out of labs for the time being. But speaking of hints, we've got another violet hint here telling us that... Oh, the Dark Beam can be found in Storage C.
So Dark Beam is locked by super missiles and either Boost Ball or Screw Attack. Whichever one of those two items comes up first.
Well, at least it's in labs. I mean, that'll loop back around to actually get out of labs without taking a long detour. And we could do the entire Dark Aegon lab loop since we do have Annihilator.
Yeah, so going here first is a little more efficient for Steve, so it's letting him make up a little bit of his time difference. Really, Steve's only behind based on movement. They've followed pretty much the same route through most of this.
You know,
But as you can see, like, movement can add up over time.
absolutely. And I'd say Steve is actually ahead of JhavA in the current sense. We have, just based on doing Compound first and it paying off, you have yourself Amber, you have Seekers, which granted aren't really helpful in Aegon at all, but you do have knowledge for your Dark Beam. And knowing that Aegon has your next progression in it, we're set up without having to make an unnecessary trip. As unfortunately for JhavA, they're going to have to come back for a third time after doing the entire Compound loop. But we do get information for Ing Reliquary having, oh look, a key. Now,
Well, this is a reed seed.
Yeah, how much you want to bet that's a Sky Temple key?
You know, 9 times out of 10, when I see a key on Reliquary, it's a STK.
And the other one time is a Chicka key for a required boss fight. Well, looks like we're just going to duplicate the Amber Translator, although it doesn't do anything for us.
And
But
that is
we've,
Dark Aegon Key 1 on top of the ship, which it looks like Steve neglected to pick up.
yeah, no,
That
Steve never went.
hopefully doesn't matter. But, like I said, this is a reed seed.
Yeah, anything's possible. Although, granted, we did see that mining plaza. There's a possibility mining plaza is not required. But then again, Amorbus itself could have a major on it.
So what JhavA is attempting right here is to get a look at what the item is in FTA. If you jump into the ceiling at the right angle, you are able to briefly, for one frame, see what the item is. It looked orange to me, but I am really bad at telling what that item is.
Yeah, I couldn't see anything. But we do see that the super
Super
missiles
missiles
are
and phase on grounds.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so we're looking for Dark Visor and Dark Suit or Screw Attack.
I really hope it's Screw Attack because trying to find Dark Visor combination, that Dark Visor is usually not found early. It's not in a reach seat, at least. So let's think about this for a second. In order to get Dark Beam, we need to go to Sky Temple grounds, go through the Phazon grounds, then come all the way back to Aegon Labs just to do Storage C. Thank you, game, for having a long backtrack in early. Oh, wait a minute. That actually puts into logic. And Lenof is making a good point. You need Grapple Beam if you don't have Screw Attack to get into Phazon grounds.
That is a very good point. So we're looking for one suit, one movement system, and potentially one visor, just to get super missiles to get our Dark Beam. And JhavA is attempting to check Gateway early by using scan dashes, and, well, there's one of the suits. So this is in logic with Screw Attack or Grapple. And from... yeah, Screw Attack or Grapple, because the other side would require super missiles and Light Beam. So, our suit is locked by our movement system, which at this point seems likely to be Screw Attack.
Oh, we got an interesting play here by Steve. They're foregoing all logic and trying to dive into Phazon grounds. And please don't get hit by that Metroid. No, Steve, that's going to cause a death.
Yep.
Oh, and did Steve save when he went to Transport A? Okay, thankfully he did. So not a terrible time loss. But unfortunately, having no E-tanks, no suits, and diving Sky Temple grounds early, your movement needs to be perfect, and you better hope that Metroid is not looking at you.
Okay, so if I'm following the logic correctly, I think our next progression needs to be Screw Attack, since that puts pretty much the entire chain into something that makes sense.
I agree. Use the Screw Attack to get your Dark Suit. Although Dark Suit really doesn't matter at this... yeah, it does, because you have no E-Tank. So use the Screw Attack to get your Dark Suit. Then use that combination to use your Annihilator for Phazon grounds to get your supers. Then use that entire trio to go into Storage C for your Dark Beam. And then continue through labs as normal. Although here's the problem. Where on earth is a Screw Attack?
Mike... where could this be?
Academy was making a good point. You throw it in sand cache, use your amber for good use. Now let's see,
I think one of
storage.
them has checked sand cache already.
I can't recall if Steve has or hasn't. I mean, the only hint we saw was Mining Plaza. So I'm wondering if Steve saw that hint and then immediately played off into trying to get supers.
Hold on, we have seekers.
Yeah.
Wait, no, we don't. We don't have boost. It can't be Hall of Honored Dead.
Oh, new information. The keys to Dark Torvus were in Hive, Sanctuary, and Torvus. With that,
And there's Sunburst.
game, Sunburst is not what we're looking for right now.
So,
But
I don't think that missile combos or charge beam combos are placed until after the beam that uses them are placed. So in theory, if Sunburst is obtainable, I think Light Beam is too.
all right, in my opinion, I will say that Dark Burst is probably my favorite out of all of them. It's fun just shooting a black hole at everything and watching the destruction happen.
Okay, so with Space Jump, bioenergy is in logic. Which,
Yeah,
if that's screw attack, that would be hideous because you have to go to bioenergy to get it, leave, turn around, go get the super missiles, then come back to use them to get your dark beam.
Steve's having a hard time scanning this, but we have information that a beam is in Battleground. And that cannot be Dark Beam.
That has to be Light Beam.
Yeah. No, it can't. Yes, it can because you use supers to go through Warrior's Walk. That makes sense.
Yep.
Oh, that's nasty. that's
supers
not nice.
Is blocking both Dark Beam and Light Beam.
Reed, what the heck did you create tonight?
And we know it's not the cache because the cache was, I believe,
life support.
Life support. So this is the fight.
You know what? In my opinion, having Light Beam on Battleground would have been such a better way to actually get it. Instead of it be thrown just in a random ink cache storage closet, you gotta fight the ink for a weapon that is so deadly against them.
Yeah, but they put it in the storage closet, so you don't think it's important to look for it there.
I mean, that's fair, but then you have Trial Tunnel. In Trial Tunnel, you have a red key, so...
So yeah, then, I think bioenergy has to be screw attack.
And as you said, that in turn makes us take the long backtrack to go get supers to break into Storage C. Although, here's my thought process. Hear me out for a minute. Is it feasible for any of these two to take the out of bounds to do Storage C?
I am not familiar enough with either of them to say yes or no. I don't think I've seen Steve do that type of out of bounds. And I haven't watched a lot of JhavA's races. And yeah, looking at that glow, that's screw attack.
Yeah, I mean, here's my theory. Either one, it doesn't matter. You could do the long backtrack to get your supers now, or you just do them later. But then again, doing the out of bounds to get in and out of storage, see, you're wasting so much time, as it is a precise out of bounds. Breaking in's not the hard part. It's trying to get out.
Yeah, because to get out, you have to basically use some collision to push yourself through the floor, and you need to have the right amount and direction of momentum for it to work, and that could be rather tricky to set up.
Yeah, honestly, I think the best play here, since we had the screw attack here, continue forward through labs, use the nearby save station off of sand processing, but do that save warp after defeating Dark Samus. Get information for Storage D, then take your save warp to get your supers, then come back to labs.
I like that route.
And Wyvern's making a good point in chat, being a fellow runner and a well versed in out of bounds. Yeah, is making a point of, if you don't know where supers are, then yes, absolutely do the out of bounds, which makes sense. And JhavA, please do not die due to the lasers. Lasers are very painful.
Ooh, smart not to just drop down into there. But the good news is the next room is the save station, so you get a heal.
You know, we do have bombs and screw attack. It's rare, but we might see a sand processing skip.
I would like to see that. It's always fun to watch that. And it looks like JhavA is just electing to save warp out and immediately go for those supers.
All right, yeah, no worries. I don't. Yeah, doing Dark Samus later after you have Dark Beam makes it a lot safer. So,
and you can do it. You could do it with both Dark Beam and Light Beam and continue immediately into Spider Side.
Yeah, that makes
sense.
Like
Steve is electing to check doomed entry.
Oh, Steve's gonna have a bad time because
this is a soft lock.
He can't get back out this way. Where did Steve last save? Oh, and we got a frowny face from Steve on the ground.
Yeah, he's realizing it.
I wonder if Steve was on autopilot and just did it out of habit.
I think he thought there was a good chance it was Light Beam because I don't think he has the Light Beam hint yet.
No, where was that hint? That was off of Portal Terminal? I didn't write that one down. Oh, Steve's the one who got the hint for Light Beam. It was Portal Terminal. See, I know I'm smart sometimes.
And JhavA collects the super missiles.
And destroys a Metroid in the process. There's a reason why they're an endangered species.
I have no idea how both JhavA and that Metroid managed to miss each other so many times in such rapid succession.
Alright, JhavA needs to be careful playing in low energy, and you have the Dark Troopers here to give you a headache. Well, that Dark Trooper doesn't exist anymore. Never mind. Yep, and Steve is going back into GFMC compound. Although the gate's already open, so he must have done this loop already. Unless he's just now realizing he never did on top of the ship.
Yeah, it looks like that's exactly what he realized.
And hopefully this pushes Steve back towards labs since you do have space jump, missiles, amber, and bombs. You have what you need to get into bioenergy. You could do Dark Samus.
Reed, super missiles locks both dark beam and light beam.
And in order to get those supers, you need to first get the screw attack off of bioenergy, to then get the dark suit off of Wind Chamber Gateway, to then go into Phazon Grounds to get your supers, to then come all the way back to Storage C for your dark beam.
And battleground for light beam.
You know, while Reed's here, I do want to make a comment for the record. I was promised one thing for signing up here tonight. I was lied to. Reed deceived me, and in return, all I got was this cursed multi-world. Or not a multi-world, this is a tournament race. That's okay, because we're having a good time here at SpeedGaming. Alright, now back to your regularly scheduled programming. So, on the left with JhavA, we're 45 minutes in. We finally got our supers off of Phazon Grounds. So now it is time to go collect that dark beam and use it to get our light beam, which in turn will allow us to break open practically the entire game. On the flip side with Steve, we did take 2 untimely deaths. One death was unintentional due to a Metroid grabbing us, and the second one we had to take a reset due to soft locking a doomed entry. So Steve has a little bit of catching up to do. We still have to get that screw attack off of labs, and if we want, we could go get our main power bombs back off of central mining. So we do have a little bit of a backtrack to do. But that's okay because we got plenty of gameplay left and plenty of cursed Sky Temple key locations to go for. And once again, friendly reminder, please do not stand next to highly explosive containers without proper protection. Your daily safety message from the Lightbringers of Aether.
And Steve is back at labs, which is the place he needs to be. Unfortunately, he's still going to have to make that massive loop around that JhavA has already done.
Right. I mean, on the bright side, there is a good save warp that we can take. But then again, you still have to take the entire journey back into labs after doing the save warp.
Yep. So, if JhavA hasn't gotten the hint, do you think JhavA checks Dark Labs here or just keeps going once he grabs his Dark Beam?
That's an interesting theory, interesting play. Yes, we have Dark Beam. There's a lot we can do. But then you really gotta stop and think, should I immediately go get my Light Beam and head somewhere else? Or do I keep full clearing? Yeah, personally, if I was JhavA in this situation, now that I have Dark Beam, I'd go fight Dark Samus, get Storage D out of the way. Then I'd probably dive into labs, get the... no, you don't want to dive into Dark Labs, because we need to go all the way back around. So I probably get Light Beam first, take the journey through Warrior's Walk, then
Yeah.
come back and clear out both Sand Canyon, Vent Area A, the Mineshaft section, and then probably dive Sank Spider side. Spider's treasure usually has a good amount, and since we have Spider Ball, I'd really say it's hinting at Spider's treasure having something useful for us.
Well, you're assuming that JhavA knows about the light beam, which we are operating under the assumption that JhavA did not go back for that hint.
Did not go back for that. I really need to learn how to listen. Well, even if we don't have information on that light beam, my fear is JhavA might dive into dark labs and be so sorely disappointed. I mean, yes, it makes sense. Put your light beam at dark labs. It can be vanilla. But then again, it very well could be plenty of other locations, because we do have logical access into Torvus Lagoon. We have Amber, we have Supers, and we have Seekers, so we could go the long way. If we do dive into Torvus, we might spend unnecessary time there. That's the problem with that goes. Once you have so much open to you, it's hard to efficiently route. And here
And
we
Dark
see.
Samus 1 is another one of those early game bosses that does not resist power bombs. So yeah, very useful item to get early.
And K-Rar's asking, was there a boo? No, I'm sorry, K-Rar, you're thinking of a different game series. Although, I mean, you could have the Metroid Zaz as a boo. That'd be interesting.
Dark Oasis is a missile-related upgrade, which we know is dead, as we have seen every major missile item.
No, K-Rar, we are never going to cut you a break since you continuously curse these races. So I'm sorry, but you've done it to yourself. Especially if Ares required today.
Oof, Steve also cutting it close on health here.
And he's better take that save. Please take the save. And yeah, here's what I was worried about, Rico.
Well, I think this is the right move for JhavA because of the light beam. So as long as JhavA... Oh, right. You need light beam to get to it from this side.
Yeah. You can't access Battleground from this side. Double path is light beam locked on both sides.
I forgot about the light beam door on the other side of that dark beam door.
Yeah. But I will say this, in JhavA's defense, this is entirely plausible and logical. You have what you need to get it to Incash 3. You have what you need for Incash 2. There's 2 item checks that are entirely plausible to have your light beam. Granted, we know that it's not, but based on JhavA's current equipment, this makes perfect sense.
But on the other hand, if there does turn out to be something in Incash 2, it's not a complete waste, but it would have been more efficient to come in from the other side with that light beam.
Although I will say on the positive, at least for JhavA, you are getting in cache 2 and 3 out of the way, both of which are pretty painful to route in late game.
1 and 2, there is no 3.
Which, yep, I know room names sometimes, not really. Thank you, Echoes, for having room names that are similar.
There is in caches 1, 2, and 4, and storage is B, C, and D.
You know, I really don't like Echo's room names sometimes. But I mean, it's really hard to name these rooms. You have a light version and a dark version. There's not much that really changes. Oh, and JhavA's realizing that since Lightbeam is not here, there's nothing we're going to do further in labs, so they're going to take the death. Although personally, I don't think that was. Oh, they did take a save station though. Okay, never mind. That prevents them from walking all the way back around. But no, if I was JhavA, I start thinking, well, where can I really put focus into? Can I go into Torvus? Well, yes, we have Emerald, we have Seekers, but no light beam, so you'd be restricted to Underground Tunnel. Where else can I do? Well, Aegon's got a lot left to it. Maybe I should start clearing Aegon then. And hopefully, if JhavA sticks to the knowledge that Aegon has a lot left to it with his current equipment, that'll eventually stumble into Lightbeam.
And Steve grabs his dark suit and now has everything he needs to get his super missiles.
I so hope Steve makes just a straight line for it. You have what you need, you have the protection. Go get your supers and get moving. Especially since you have the hint for where they are.
And Steve has made a comment in the race room. Reed, I don't think you're going to get a good review out of him for your performance review.
We would say the quote live, but we're not allowed to use vulgarity on SpeedGaming. Well, let's just say that his quote is Steve yelling, saying, "Reed, what in the Randovania is this? Congratulations, Reed." Oh, and look at that. We've got unlimited beam ammo or double damage in Mineshaft.
Either one is something you want.
The ability to spam fire Annihilator or do a lot more damage? Absolutely.
So one of the nice things is that you can visibly tell the multiplayer beam items. In Randomania, the default setting is to split the beam ammos apart. So light beam ammo pickups will be white on both sides, dark beam will be black on both sides. The multiplayer ones still use the original model, so one side is black and the other is white, and that is a visor.
Well, looks like we're going for the bomb space jump method.
I believe this is a triple BSJ. I don't know if you can do it with a double. So, what JhavA is attempting to do is to take advantage of the fact that when you leave the ground in morph ball form, there is a 22 frame window where you are still considered grounded, and Bruh in chat is confirming that it can be done with a double. Now, if you can regain control of Samus in that 22 frame window, you can initiate a space jump as if you were still on the ground.
Also, nice little hint in Mining Station B for JhavA, having a progressive suit on Plane of Dark Worship, which thankfully is completely accessible with our current equipment. We have Dark Suit in order to get it, so we've basically got a free light suit.
That is the logical light suit because you need dark suit to get it.
Oh, right, we don't have light beam. We can't get that right now. We can't move the statue to open the portal.
Well, light beam is in logic. We know where it is. Light beam is in the battleground actual warrior ing check, which they have supers so they can get there.
Followed by a suit in Temple Grounds. Thank you, Isha. We appreciate your contribution today to today's race. Alrighty, so the good news is Steve finally has their super missiles. So they're able to now go get their light beam and their dark beam respectively, while continuing through labs. And I would say after labs for Steve, yeah, start making some play in Sanctuary. Although you could go, we have boost balls, so you could go for underground tunnel and make a lot of headway in Torvis. Yeah, either one would be a good option. But no, I'd say Torvis is probably the better play.
Okay, JhavA has the beam hint, so I imagine that is he's going to be booking it there.
Yep, and good thing is we get Incash 4 out of the way finally. So we can see if this check has any use to us. But the good news is we have supers and seekers. I'm assuming after we get light beam here for JhavA, we're going to take a save warp and go get our STK hints.
Probably want to grab that light suit.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that on the way. Well, but first things first, we've got to go through the Warrior's Walk to access the battleground. But it's just a light ammo expansion, so we're not going to worry about picking it up. While Steve is sitting here contemplating about how to get into Battleground, knowing that it has light beam, and it looks like he's just figured it out. The good thing about this fight with Battleground and JhavA, by using Annihilator on one of those light zones, that forces all the ink to start going towards it. Well, thankfully, we don't have to do anything for this fight. And say hello to our first E of the run, just over an hour in.
Man, the first E-Tank was Dark Visor locked.
It is safe to blame Reed for this.
And Steve picking up the light beam almost immediately after JhavA. Yeah, sometimes the homing feature of the Annihilator beam can be a curse.
All right. Good news is we have our light beam. Bad news is we have to take the long way to get into Aegon Labs, as we have no way of actually getting to the light portal through Doomed Entry. There's a dark beam door blocking access to Dark Oasis. And Steve is about to find that out in just a few moments. Yep. So it's like Steve has realized, hey, wait a minute, I don't have Dark Beam to access that door. Well, we're going to have to take the long way around. And then it involves going all the way back to Portal Terminal, then going through Light Labs. Meanwhile, JhavA went to go get their light suit off of Plane of Dark Worship, and is now making the trek to go get their SDK locations. We have 9 keys to find, and we have the entirety of Torvus, Dark Torvus, Thing Hive, Sky Temple Grounds, and Sanctuary once again to go anywhere that we want with them.
And we have most of the items except for Boost Ball, Grav Boost, Echo, and Cobalt. So we could potentially already be in go mode depending on where the STKs are.
That's entirely possible, my friend. But more likely than not, let's see what handful of the items we're missing. Just a missile and the defiled shrine today. And we're not going to bother checking Hall of the Honored Dead. Yeah, if you could put an STK somewhere, it's always nice to have a key on Hydro Dynamo's chamber. You throw it with Alpha Blog. That's always a good fight. Or,
and Chaika is dead.
Yay, we don't need to go collect 3 useless keys. Or in this case, actually useful. Well, I'm sorry to all Chica lovers out there, but you will not be seeing that boss fight tonight. Please forward all complaints to Reed. Oh, first things first, War Ritual Grounds has something shiny in that. Is that grapple or is that gravity?
That's grapple. That looks like grapple.
We're not going to bother getting that. We don't need grapple beam. We already have the screw attack.
Honestly, grapple is nice to have. So, in rooms where you have a choice between using grapple and using screw, it is faster to use grapple with one exception. And the one exception is that grapple point on your way into Phazon Grounds, because chances are that Dark Metroid's going to knock you off it.
And speaking of gravity, it's right there on Ventaria A.
Okay. Well, that's one unknown now known. Okay,
All
what do
right,
we
let's
have?
take it away.
Storage A, Ing Reliquary.
Of course it is.
Oh, Dark Aegon Temple.
Heck, we need to fight a Morbus.
Poisoned Bog. Forgotten Bridge. Hive Dynamo Works.
Have fun with Spider Guardian.
Sank Map. Dungeon.
Lower Dark.
And main energy controller, so Tumos.
Well. You know, we didn't take care of Chica today. We decided to give that boss a break. But you know what we got instead? The other two temple bosses are hard required.
So we need 2 more Aegon keys. We need Cobalt Translator. And let's see.
Let's go by key. Aegon Storage A. That's a freebie. That's right off of Mining Station B. Ing Reliquary, you need Light Suit and Dark Visor 4, which JhavA thankfully has. Dark Aegon Temple, we need the 2 keys, or we could theoretically out of bounds the gate, although that would be time consuming. Depending on where the keys are, that might be the best option.
And JhavA electing to grab the grapple on his way back.
See, Poison Bog. Poison Bog, you need Light Suit Dark Visor 4.
Which we have.
Forgotten Bridge is a freebie. That's just locked. Forgotten Bridge is that one. Okay, yep, that's free. Hive Dynamo, you have 2 options. Either A, you out of bounds it, or B, you fight Spider Guardian, which you need Cobalt for, or you need to out of bounds the door. Sank Map Station, Cobalt, or out of bounds. Dungeon, Light Suit Dark Visor again. And main energy controller, have fun returning the Quadraxis energy.
And Leno brings up a good point that logically Echo is required as well for Quad.
Logically, yes. Technically, no, as we can't skip it. But we just can't lock on. We have to do a manual aim for the weak points.
Yeah, Echoless Quad isn't that bad. It's not exactly ideal, but if you do it a couple times, you'll probably get the hang of it. So
Yep.
I'm not really expecting them to go and try and track down the Echo Visor at this point.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, your only purpose for Echo at this point is to get into... Not even get into, you just need it for the Quadraxis fight itself for Phase 2 and Phase 3. But other than that, there's no door or location really hard locked behind it, unless your Cobalt...
Those are anger shots.
Unless your Cobalt is locked behind an Echo check, and you really don't want to out of bounds the Cobalt requirements.
Cobalt is not known yet, Krar.
Oh gosh, I can see the logic chain thinking. How cursed can it make it? Yeah, Cobalt and Aerie is entirely possible, Krar. But before we do anything, let's go through Torvus Bog, and let's see what we can get. Now, take mind that gravity boost was found by Steve over in Ventaria A, so if anything underwater is required, mainly the 2 transit tunnels, we're going to have to take a slight detour back to Aegon.
On top of that, just moving through the water without gravity boost is not ideal. You will lose a lot of time because of the water physics. And Cobalt Translator is now known. It is TTS.
You know how I was just saying if something was locked by gravity? I really gotta stop saying things. That's like the 3rd time now.
So the question now becomes, when does JhavA go back to Aegon?
Problem is, there's nothing really pushing JhavA towards that part of Aegon. I mean, Vent Area A is you're only really going to check it if you're making the dive for the Sank Spider side. But going to Sanctuary, JhavA has everything he needs for Lower Torbus. So we very well could take that Lower Torbus into Sank Vault side. And that, in turn, could lead to a very hot-dogged gravity boost. Oh, and here's your double damage on Great Bridge. With a red key on abandoned work site. Is it a required key? It is not.
It's required in our hearts.
It's required for the trash can. And here's the first STK located off of Forgotten Bridge. Just casually sitting here waiting for us to collect it. Meanwhile, Steve is continuing through Aegon. They've just finished Aegon Labs, found the main power bombs off of Central Mining, and is now probably wondering to themselves, what can I do with the equipment I have? Well, Steve, you can do quite a lot. And say hello to the second E of the run, an hour and 15 minutes in, hiding here on Putrid Alcove. And here we see Poison Bog's key. That's the second key to the Sky Temple. While Steve is apparently taking a save warp. Well, Steve, what are you doing? Well, based on your equipment, you're probably heading for Torvus Lagoon. Or you might also be going for STKs.
There is an out of bounds for the transit tunnels, so we could potentially see JhavA attempt that if they are confident with it. Other than that, I think they gotta hope for a hint on that grav boost to point them back to Aegon.
That's entirely fair. I forgot about the out of bounds. I mean, can you do it? Yes. Is it time consuming? Not terribly. It's not too much of a time loss. But I mean, since JhavA's already here in Torvus, if they're familiar with it, I'd say go for it. You know, you're not going to hurt yourself by going for it.
And now that we're through the hard part, we're getting all of the E. And Steve getting what can probably be considered the first good news of this seed.
And that would be?
That he doesn't have to swat a giant mosquito. And it looks like he's electing to not go for hints right now and instead go towards Torvus.
That's an interesting play.
Never mind, he just wanted the hint.
And we have a question posed by KRR. Do any of the runners know Worm Key Skip? Know it? Yes. Want to do it in a race setting? Most likely not. Thank you, Ivan, for that input.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, it's another one of those ones where getting in isn't that hard, but getting out is where all the difficulty is.
Yeah. So real quick with Worm Key Skip, it, it requires a multi-room out of bounds to bypass the gate the first time. Once a Morbus is defeated, eh, you're using very minute standables to try to force your way to jump over the gate. And unfortunately, Dark Aegon Temple is not really designed for a good out of bounds movement.
It's almost like the game developers didn't intend for you to go outside of the bounds of their game.
Are you kidding? No, absolutely not. Why would the game developers restrict us by this three-dimensional room by room game? No, we got to go out of bounds and completely break it. Although it's a lot better than trying to do Exo Skip in Prime 1. Yeah, that's a terrible out of bounds. And Reed, we are not going to discuss about you and that chicken bar. We are not going for those 3 keys. Mainly due to the fact you declined a sentry due to your VIP passes. And hey, how about we have another E-Tank hiding here on Avok with Torvus Energy and a hint for Echo.
So Echo is in sync.
Echo is exactly 4 rooms away from Reactor Core.
Oh, Steve is not happy.
Would you be happy if you knew you had to do Spider Guardian and a Morbus?
Nope. Ironically, though, Steve is in the better position right now for that Spider Guardian. He just doesn't know it.
Well, the good thing is Steve has Gravity Boost, and that's going to play well into the TTS that JhavA needs.
And Steve taking a Death Warp out of the temple.
And thankfully, this Death Warp is intentional. We did not do this by accident.
Nothing important in Underground Tunnel yet. Let's see what the hint is. Dark Aegon keys. Yeah, that... The money is in the banana stand.
I'm sorry, where are you finding a banana stand around here?
There's always progression in Underground Tunnel. The money is in the banana stand. Did you not watch Arrested Development?
I did not. I don't own a television.
Well, in the first season of Arrested Development, after the father is arrested for fraud, one thing he says in every episode is there's always money in the banana stand, which is the least profitable part of his business empire. It turns out that he had $100,000 lining the wall of this tiny little building to hide it from the IRS.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, so naturally the characters burn down the banana stand not knowing.
Well, good news is we just found another Aegon key off of Meditation Vista.
We are 2/3 of the way to Worms.
And now it's time to head into the lower Torvus Bog. The flooded depths of the city once promised. That is not the right adjective for that.
and Steve is entering MSB, which is actually one of my favorite rooms in this game because there's so many different ways to do the trick to get the item.
Okay, JhavA, just thank you for showing off and doing a first try air underwater. That's pretty impressive.
So, air underwater is a very interesting trick that is, in fact, frame perfect. So, if you morph on the exact frame that you enter water, the game won't really know whether you're landed or underwater. So, it kind of gives you the physics of both. You'll still move as if you're underwater, but you will be able to initiate a screw attack. Also, it messes with your beams. I'm not sure the reason why, but it prevents your power beam from firing correctly. Basically, you'll be like firing into an invisible wall and you can't really use it for anything. The dark beam is unaffected though, so as long as you have that, you can still get through doors. That was a very nice double BSJ into a screw attack by Steve. Unfortunately, the bug is bullying him. Wait, Steve didn't go to get the key, did he?
What key?
This is the storage with the key, the STK in it, correct?
It should be, yeah.
Yeah, I think he turned around without grabbing it.
Well, no, he's got a key on his tracker.
Okay, then he got it.
Otherwise, it'd be a very bad mistake. And Leno's been giving us the technical side for your air underwater earlier. Yeah, because we're shooting in water, power beam stops once it hits the body of water. So because your game's technically tricked into thinking you're both in and out of water, your regular power beam isn't going to do anything due to water physics.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
And speaking of making sense, it looks like JhavA's got a route in their mind. They're sticking to it. They're following the SDK logic, but going for checks along that set route. It makes sense. You're only looking for a handful of items. You only really need what? Your Echo Visor, your Boost Ball if you want easier movement, and you really want that Gravity Backpack to make getting Cobalt easier.
A little bit of an optimization for JhavA if you watch this back. If you hit those light beacons with Light Beam, they will stay up for a lot longer, so you don't need to re-hit them and wait for the robots to move again.
All right, and over on Steve's side, it looks like they've just come out of that mining station B loop. Then back in Mining Plaza.
Ooh, looks like JhavA's having a little bit of trouble getting out of this gate.
Now they went to the wrong side, that's why.
They still got out, though.
Well,
So the developers never imagined that you would ever be on the other side of that gate without having opened it first. So there really isn't collision on it from the portal side. So you can just kind of glitch your way out of the gate without ever closing it. Realizing he forgot the hint.
Thanks, game. At least we now confirmed what Amorbus has.
Steve about to get his light suit.
You know what? Reed makes a good point. Now, yes, there is an out of bounds trick you can do to bypass the Spider Guardian fight and get Hive Dynamo without the boss being defeated. Is it difficult? Yes. But do you want to do it in place of fighting Spider Guardian? Well, that depends on where your boost ball is. Since you do need boost ball to finish that fight. And if boost ball is here, I'm going to have a fit. Well, the hint for boost ball is hint.
That is a good hint for JhavA. Because that will push him back to Aegon for that grav boost as well. And we have Dark Burst.
You know, this begs the question, where in Dark Aegon have we not gone to? There's not many checks in Dark Aegon. Well, and it can't be Dark Oasis. We already got the hint for it.
As Chad is pointing out, I don't think either runner has checked in Cache 4, so it could be there.
Oh, I really hope they scanned Dark Oasis and that was a missile. Yes, yeah, Dark Oasis was a missile because we made the comment about finding all of them. Did we? I'm sure we did. All right, but let's go ahead and take a little peek over in Sanctuary Fortress while we're here, shall we? We just came from Lower Torvus, so we opened up a good checkpoint elevator. But meanwhile, we can't access Sank entrance. We have to go through the main door in Temple Grounds to get that check. So how about we go through Sanctuary, go through these checks. Maybe we'll come across Echo. Maybe we'll come across something useful. Although, granted, we know boost balls in Dark Aegon, and well, Echo is somewhere.
Hopefully, JhavA doesn't continue through Sank and instead takes the elevator down into Aegon, because that will bring him right to that grav boost and put him in a good place to go hunting that boost ball.
It would make the most sense. Sanctuary doesn't have a lot of keys to it. We have Sank Map Station. We have Hive Dynamo. Hive Dynamo, you know for a fact you can't do right now. Sank Map Station, if you want to be risky, go for the out of bounds. But other than that, you really don't want to stay in Sanctuary because of that boost ball hint. And it appears JhavA has ran out of power bombs.
Meanwhile, Steve is in Torvus, and with that grav boost, he will be able to push all the way down to that Cobalt Translator. Was that a red key in the tunnel?
I can tell you it was an item. I cannot tell you for sure what exactly it was. But I can tell you that Steve has just signed information for Cobalt, and they have everything they need to get that.
So JhavA is attempting to get back through this room without using the spider track through a slope jump. Which, one of the weird peculiarities of the Metroid Prime games is that if you pass by slope collision while holding down the L button, the game will not behave properly if you jump off of it and will actually give you more height than it's supposed to.
And thankfully, that works for us in our favor due to the extra height and screw attack giving us extra height in addition to the slope. We get just enough that we need to bypass some of these spider tracks.
And with that power bomb, JhavA can now continue on to Aegon. Though, yeah, it's not a bad move to check Coaling Chamber and Hasten Cliff right here.
Oh no, absolutely not. You got plenty to do.
Oh, is JhavA going to quad already? JhavA got the hints for the red keys, so he knows where all of them... well, what regions all of them are. JhavA demonstrating that the cutscene for the portal opening actually repositions you to right in front of the portal, so you can use that cutscene to move yourself across the gap if you don't have grapple or screw attack, or you just want to be quick about it. I'm not sure I really agree with going deeper into Sank right now. But to be fair to JhavA, he does not know that Grav isn't here. Because there are several areas in Sank that are in logic, and for all he knows, one of those checks is Grav Boost. Unfortunately for him, he was right next to it and did not go that way. JhavA electing not to attempt either the instant morph or screw attack bonk up to the gate. But even just skipping the first part of this puzzle saves a lot of time. And that is Echo Visor in Watch Station.
Well, it's a very interesting location, to say the least. But it looks like JhavA's continuous hunting has paid off for him. And now with that Echo Visor in hand, that allows us to get a lot more checks done. Although granted, we're only really missing Boost Ball and Gravity Boost at the current time. And that Cobalt and Lower Torvis, which again is locked by Gravity, but Gravity's off of Vent Area A. Although granted, we are still missing that for Boost Ball from Dark Aegon.
Unfortunately for JhavA, if he follows the Echo logic, it's going to take him further away from the areas he needs to be right now. Well, you can fight quad without boost. I don't know if that's something you want to do right now.
It wouldn't be recommended in any way. Just based on how Phase 2 and Phase 3 are. Yes, you can bypass it with a well-timed screw attack. If you're confident enough with it, by all means, skip the Boost Ball. Although there is another thing they could do, and if you really want to test your luck, you could go for a Quadraxis boss skip.
Yeah, because technically you only need to return the energy.
Indeed, that's the point. But it's extremely risky, though.
You only get one shot.
If you fail it, you've got to take a save warp. It's not. It's just a hard soft. It's a hard lock.
Yeah, the risk of an inbound quad skip is that when you leave the quad fight mid-fight, you haven't changed all of the layers in Hive Temple. Specifically, the layer that raises the pillar that you're supposed to use to traverse that room is never triggered. So, if you fall back down, you have absolutely no way to get back up to any of the 3 doors.
That's just painful, you know. You take an accidental fall, and now you're stuck in this room for all eternity. Now, I'm hoping JhavA takes the realization of that boost ball hint and starts making their play towards that Aegon elevator. I guess not. Looks like we are going back to Lower Torvis. Interesting choice, although we could very well be going for a transit tunnel skip by Out of Bounds. We'll just have to wait and see what JhavA's thinking. Meanwhile, Dave is continuing through Upper Torvis. We're about to enter the Torvis Temple. No, we're not. We're about to enter Lower Torvis. Thank you, Super Missiles, for allowing us through this path.
And Steve getting the Dark Aegon key hint, which I think is the last piece of information he needed.
Well, unless Steve has knowledge of where that boost ball is.
Oh, yeah, Steve still needs the boost ball hint. And another beautiful air underwater from JhavA.
That's twice now. He's done a frame perfect trick the first time. That's pretty impressive. Nope, it looks like JhavA's realizing they can't progress further without gravity. And yep, looks like we're going for the out of bounds method here, Rico.
This is always interesting to see. So the way out of bounds works in this game is that when you screw attack, you actually are given the hitbox of the morph ball. So you can screw attack into a morph ball tunnel. And when you sort of unmorph out of screw attack, Samus will stand up and be outside of the bounds of the game. So every room in these games exists inside of a box. And on the inside of this box, you have all of the physics. Outside of the box, you have something we call the Aether, which you normally cannot jump, you cannot fall, and you can just move sort of indefinitely in the Aether. Though if you morph, you will fall. But when you transition back and forth between the Aether and the room, you have a brief 3-frame window to initiate a space jump. And you can use that to climb the room by jumping back into the Aether. The big risk in out-of-bounds movement is accidentally initiating a screw attack, because screw attack only ends when you are on solid collision, and none exists in Aether. So if you screw attack, you will fall indefinitely. Though an easy way to avoid triggering a screw attack is actually to just aim your vision upwards. For whatever reason, that alters the amount of button presses you need to trigger a screw attack. I don't know why.
Yep, so in short, every room is in a box, and trying to move inside and outside the box is a very fun experience.
Unless you fall.
Well, that's where we're going to do our best to not fall. The problem is we're doing out of bounds with water physics, which makes this about 3 times as bad.
Yep. And there's no way to air underwater that I know of into this out of bounds. So you're stuck with, well, suboptimal movement conditions.
And meanwhile, while JhavA is attempting to get this out of bounds for Transit Tunnel South, Steve just now enters the same room and is showing why having an item designed for underwater movement in a room that is flooded is extremely beneficial.
Okay, so JhavA is up. JhavA is mostly on top of, almost on top of the box. Just a couple more jumps. Once you're there, you can fall into the item if you position yourself right. Oh, never mind. I thought that horizontal pipe was vertical. But with the grab boost, Steve fairly effortlessly grabs the key. And with that grab boost, I'd say Steve has actually pulled ahead right here.
I agree. Yep. The downside is Steve doesn't have any knowledge to the regards of Boost Ball's location. So they may be tempted to clear out a lot more places before taking a detour back to Aegon.
That is very true.
And to you, never mind.
And there's the hint.
You know what? I'm done. Every time I say something, every time.
Steve is not happy about that hint.
Well, they have light suits, so it wouldn't be terrible to go back for the Aegon elevator off of the Torvus Temple side. How do I do it twice, Tyrannosaur? Because I forget what room we're currently in. That's how. I didn't realize we were in training chamber.
Meanwhile, JhavA is almost at that cobalt.
Yes, Kamir, we are pretty much boost ball go mode at this point. The only reason why we need boost ball is to defeat Spider Guardian.
Oh, and it looks like JhavA missed the cobalt, so he's going to have to jump up there again.
Yes, KOR Spider Guardian is required. We have a key on Hive Dynamo Works, and there are only two ways to get Hive Dynamo. Either A, a tricky out of bounds, or B, you fight Spider Guardian and go through regular Dynamo Works. Oh, and JhavA just missed it again.
He's not going to be happy when he finds out how close he was to grav boost.
Oh, no, absolutely not. But, I mean, in his defense, there's nothing really saying go back to this location.
True, but had he chosen to chase that boost ball, he'd have just stumbled into it.
Speaking of stumbling into things, we are still attempting to get this cobalt. And this just goes to show how difficult out-of-bounds movement can be, even for just one room.
Especially when you're underwater. So, to reiterate, you only have a 3-frame window to initiate your jump. And when you're jumping... Oh, there's the cobalt! That was very nice, JhavA. But yeah, when you're jumping underwater, your jump height is significantly reduced. So JhavA had to do more Aether jumps than you would normally have to do to get to the top of a room's box.
And that gave Steve an opportunity to catch up, although it looks like Steve is at the Sanctuary elevator. Yeah, Steve decided to go for Sanctuary instead of following the Aegon boost ball hint.
He might actually be following the Aegon.
Oh, that's
ball.
absolutely fair. Yep, go for the spider side elevator.
Yeah.
Go for the spider elevator. You never know. And granted, that saves us a trip from trying to go to lower to upper Torvus. So no, that makes sense.
On the other hand, if that boost ball is in Incash 4, it might have been faster to go that way because that elevator puts you out right by the portal.
Well, that's fair, but using the Sank Spider side elevator, you're coming right off of Dark Labs, and you could use that for feeding pit.
And we have both runners very unhappy in the race room. So Reed, you're batting 1,000 here. Yeah, because unfortunately, with Out of Bounds, getting what you need to get is only half the battle. Once you have that, you have to get back in bounds. Oh, JhavA's resetting out.
That's going to be a major time loss for JhavA. Oh, that is unbelievably a major time loss.
Yeah, now he's gonna either have to do that again or track down the grav boost.
Now, I bet JhavA's probably going to follow that boost ball logic to a T. He's got the hint. He knows it's in Dark Aegon. He's probably set on going into Dark Aegon. And this gives Steve the opportunity he needs to pull ahead. 5 keys compared to JhavA's 3. Steve has already done the entirety of Lower Torvus. And with a gravity boost located off of Ventilation Area A. Open JhavA's going for yet another air underwater. This makes the third one. Having a bit of a trouble trying to get this air underwater to hit.
Grav was in vent area, Kamir. That is next to the elevator into Aegon from Sank Krar. And Steve remembering he has no boost to boost off of that spider ball. I don't know what that is. That's just what I'm going to call it from now on. Just a reminder, with the new patcher, all of these color puzzles are randomized. Oh. This is a pretty risky play on JhavA's side. You have to pretty much have to reset out of here. Wait, well, no, Spider Ball. You can go through Powerbomb Guardian.
Yeah, but the downside is you have to fight Powerbomb Guardian.
Yeah, but it's better than a soft lock.
That is fair. That's entirely fair.
And we have a reset.
And sadly, due to JhavA's lack of knowledge on that gravity boost, and the lack of knowledge in general for it, since we've yet to locate a hint, even if there is one, we're sort of scrambling every possible location that it could be, while maintaining our SDK knowledge. We know we have the key in Reliquary. Great, we're getting this one out of the way. So, what other keys should we really try to focus on? Well, that's where the downside really hits. You have the one in Dark Aegon Temple. You know you need to fight a Morbus. Here's the problem. You got the hint that your Morbus keys are nowhere near Aegon. Period. So now it really begs the question, do you go back to Aegon and search for gravity? Or do you hope to find that other Aegon key first and forgo the boost ball hint?
I think probably the smart way to go about it would be to chase that boost ball and then take it into Sank so you can do more checks. Because you've seen everything in Torvis. You've seen pretty much everything you can do in Sank at this point. So basically, there's not really much left that you haven't seen that isn't locked by that boost ball.
Yep. Looks like Steve doesn't need boost ball at all. They've just gone for the out of bounds method in Hive Dynamo.
Oh.
Yep, by standing at the right angle inside the door frame, you're using the door to push yourself out of bounds. Although granted, we fall into the bottom of the box, but this totally skips us from ever fighting Spider Guardian and the requirement for boost ball, at least for this particular moment.
It seems both runners are intent on never picking up that boost ball. Considering that boost ball is accessible and they have knowledge of it, I'm not sure I agree with attempting the out of bounds here. Mostly because of how big the boxes are in Sank. If you fall to the bottom, you lose a lot of time climbing back up. Marion, do you remember what region the Aegon keys were hinted in?
You had one in Temple Grounds, and the other two, I believe, were Torvis. Yeah, I'm tempted to say it was Torvis and Temple Grounds. And since we only have two, I'm inclined to believe that there's this possibility that, let's see, if it is Temple Grounds for the last one, there's a strong probability that Hall of the Honored Dead has the key. But no, I'm fairly certain it's Torvus and Temple Grounds. But speaking of Aegon, it looks like JhavA's entered Dark Aegon, going off of the boost ball hint they received earlier, and is now searching every possible Dark Aegon location in attempts to find it. Meanwhile, Steve is still climbing up the Aether box after clipping out of bounds when in Hive Dynamo works. We are slowly but surely climbing this room. That way we have enough height to go over to where the ink cache is, get the STK, and then repeat the process to go back on the light side of Hive Dynamo.
And Incash 4 is not our boost ball, so that confirms that it is in Feeding Pit.
Which is by far a really weird place to have it. But it makes sense. It makes sense. You have the ability to do the check, and you're not going to be punished for it.
Terminal Fall Abuse puts him back in bounds. And Steve has the Dynamo Works key. Now, how do you get back from this?
That's a good question. Of which I'm trying to think.
Because there's little dynamos blocking your way in now because of the Spider Guardian.
Oh, that's easy. We're going to use a screw attack to clip into the tunnel itself, or we'll use the same method as before and literally use the door to push us out. But I think the easier one is going for the tunnel personally.
And JhavA grabs the boost ball.
No, Steve's going to screw attack into this tunnel, use that to clip himself back out of bounds, and repeat the process he did the first time in order to get to the opposite side of this room. This gets him over the Aether box requirement, and we can use the light portal to go continue our journey forward.
And Steve is out of bounds again. And JhavA about to get his grav boost.
A very happy but yet frustrated realization of how early this check could have been done.
Yeah, so if I was in his shoes and I saw that grav boost, over 2 hours into the seed and realized how early it was in logic, I'd be thinking I've lost. Now, at this point, though, this really still is anybody's game. JhavA can pull this back. Yeah, Marker, Steve is at Hive Dynamo Works. He is getting back in from doing the out of bounds to skip Spider Guardian. The door is not cooperating with Steve. So what Steve is attempting to do is something called a ceiling ward. And in order, basically, while the game thinks you are in the wrong room, if you morph when you hit sloped collision, you will sink through it, as Steve just did. And that is an easy way to get yourself back in bounds if you are out of bounds. And Steve is expressing relief in the race room. That was very nicely done. I've never actually seen that out of bounds performed before. So I guess now the question is, does Steve go for quad skip here? And there is our last worm key. So with that, JhavA knows where everything he needs is. And with that grab boost, JhavA is now grabbing that cobalt the way it is intended to be grabbed. Which is, as obnoxious as this puzzle is, much easier than doing it from out of bounds. Oh, Steve hasn't seen Inkash 2 yet, so he's going to take the long way around. That is unfortunate, but completely understandable. You don't want to go to Inkash 1 and see it not be what you're looking for and then have to turn around. But, on the other hand, it ultimately probably would be quicker to just check that one first. Since, if Inkash 2 is your thing, you could then turn around and save warp. And we see Steve employing my usual painful strategy of getting through that Morph Ball tunnel. I do not recommend you do it that way. Also worth noting, Reed, that JhavA has all of his worm keys. Steve is still missing that last one. But with that boost, Steve now has what he needs to pick up that last key in Plaza Access. Question is, when does he go there to check? And JhavA using a BSJ to just skip the gate entirely. Who needs keys? On the other hand, you could use the Annihilator Beam to walk into this fight through the side door. That works too. But JhavA enters quad. Not really much to say about the first part of this fight. You basically just do it the same way you do in vanilla. There's not really many tricks or time saves here. Okay. Now we'll see if JhavA intends to finish the fight or if he's going to go for the skip. It looks like he's going for an inbounds quad skip. So using slope jumps, you climb up Quad's legs, and then you screw attack over to the door to the energy controller. And with that, you just don't need to do the rest of this fight. Now, as we stated before, though, JhavA's only going to get one attempt at getting back. So, if he misses, this is a soft lock. But yeah, that was a very nicely done quad skip. And JhavA sticks the landing, and he is out of the temple. So with that, JhavA just needs to return the energy, save warp back to Great Temple, and collect his key. And with that, JhavA has pretty decisively pulled back the time loss from his reset. For anyone curious, that is definitely not a trick that is considered beginner. Anything that you cannot reattempt is not a beginner level trick. Yeah, unfortunately, Marion had to leave, so it's just me for now. And JhavA enters Spider Guardian. Now, for whatever reason, the first and the fourth rooms in this boss battle have active spider tracks, but rooms 2 and 3 do not. So for these half pipes, you actually have to use the half pipes. Everybody hated Boost Guardian as a kid. There was no safe zone, so you were constantly on a timer, and it was a difficult battle. Oh, and it looks like JhavA does not know that there is actually a safe spot that you can sit on top of that little block up there that you can bomb Spider Guardian from as he goes past you. Though he doesn't really need it since he makes short work of these half-pipe chambers. So fun fact, this is another boss that in vanilla you do not want to power bomb. In vanilla, just dropping a power bomb on Spider Guardian will completely delete him, and you need to actually finish this fight to make this room traversable. Aegon Key 3 is in Plaza Access, so Steve is right next to it, Kamir. JhavA has to actually collect the 2 most key read. I don't think he's done that yet. I don't think Steve has picked up Reliquary. I believe that only JhavA has. Reliquary is not that bad a key to leave for last, since it puts you out really close to the portal to Sky Temple. So, Reed, what is your final count on required bosses for the day? Okay, so what JhavA appears to be setting up here is called Worm Skip. So, if you are able to damage both of these two worms before the first one fully leaves the block, you will skip the cutscene, and Phase 3 of this battle will trigger with only 2 worms instead of 3. Which is a fairly nice time save. However, if you attempt to worm skip again, you will soft lock yourself in this room, because you need the cutscene to play to change the layer. I know one of your earlier seeds today had double required worms. And I do remember the logical caretaker one. I believe that one also had a required blog. But with a save warp out, JhavA has collected all of his Sky Temple keys and now only needs to head to bosses. Meanwhile, Steve is entering quad, and we will see if he too attempts the inbound quad skip. Yeah, this was a very difficult seed. Like, your last 2 seeds actually did have a fairly quick route through them if you could figure out the logic chain. This one, I don't think there really was a quick way you could have routed this. This one was entirely pain. Okay, and it looks like Steve is going to show off Echoless Quad. So the first step is that you're going to screw attack into that antenna. It actually does take damage from screw attack. So you jump onto the legs and just screw attack into it, and you've put Quad in a vulnerable status. From there, you have to manually aim at those antennae. It's actually... Yeah, I think it's a little easier to do it with uncharged shots as opposed to fully charged light beam. But when you're doing this with screw attack, one thing you want to pay attention to is you want to wait for that antenna to go all the way up, because it is possible to get yourself stuck on that antenna as it's rising. And as Steve is doing this, JhavA enters Emperor Ing. So the first part of this fight is fairly straightforward. With double damage, you can just spam uncharged Annihilator shots into the center of the eye. And we already have Emperor Ing 2. This is a fairly straightforward part too. You just want to damage the tentacles as they come out of those little knots. The easiest way to do that is with a power bomb, because you can get multiple tentacles with one bomb. The real difficulty of this part of the fight are those inglets, which will relentlessly hunt you and try to knock you into the poison cloud. And Cannonball was never found, Krar. So, Emperor Ing 3. Now, it's believed at one point in development there was going to be an additional phase to this fight where you would have to destroy armor around its legs by screw attacking into them. And for whatever reason, they cut that fight out of the final battle, but left the hurt box for the armor on the boss. So you can actually screw attack into this invisible hurt box that is underneath Emperor Ing, and it will deal damage directly to its health pool. Now there is one thing to keep an eye out for. If you screw attack into Emperor Ing while he is doing his laser attack, you run the risk of a crash. And that is an Emperor Ing down. Only one hurdle remains for JhavA as he attempts to escape the collapsing Dark Aether. So with Dark Samus, we will likely see an attempt at what we refer to as DS4 skip. So JhavA will likely attempt to keep Dark Samus 4 from transitioning into the final phase of her boss fight. So what you're going to do is you want to bring Dark Samus down to essentially the precipice from where she would transition. Ooh. This is kind of risky without attempting a super missile or screw attack, but JhavA is demonstrating what you want to do. You want to lock Dark Samus into that missile shield, which will keep her from doing anything else for a while. So from there, you can hit her with dark beam shots. And that is GG's for JhavA. And we have a forfeit from Steve. Hello, JhavA. Welcome to the booth. And welcome, Steve.
Dude,
GGs.
GG's, man. Oh my god.
Reed, I have
my
some words for you.
Yeah, can we yeah, whenever Reed is on a non-family friendly stream, I have some very choice words for them. My brain is just mush right now after that mid-game. Actually, at the end, everything kind of worked out pretty well, but geez, from like an hour to 2 hours, my brain was mush.
That early game was not particularly fun either.
Yeah, I was hoping that Predator also didn't take the power bombs into GFMC early because it involved a lot of back and forth for me. Um, yeah, that was terrible. Having to go to Aegon to Temple Grounds back and forth about 5 times was felt like
Yeah,
it put me behind early.
same. Except I'm the one that was stupid enough having Annihilator, forgetting that no, if you hit the portal in Command Center and you don't have light or
Oh,
dark, you're stuck in. I can't remember the name of that room.
Doomed entry. Yeah. Did
Doomed
you get
Entry.
the hint for Dark Beam?
I got the hint for both dark and light
Okay.
by that point, so that was just me hot, or that was me absolutely. That early game
That was
absolutely made me feel bad.
yeah, that was
Although
stupid.
I will
Yeah.
state for the record that I feel very, very awesome right now, regardless of the loss, based off my saving that or sorry, the Hive Dynamo Works wall crawl. I dropped both sides of the wall crawl and was able to crawl myself back up and get the key there in Hive Dynamo Works. So I feel accomplished with that one.
Oh, nice, dude. I don't know that wall crawl, so that was that definitely could have come in handy. Um, yeah, go ahead, Reese.
I was actually saying on the stream that I didn't think the wall crawl was a good idea because if you fell, you go so far down in that box. And then without skipping a beat, Steve makes the climb back up look easy.
I don't know about easy. I was shaking hands the whole time. Like my stick flicks, because I'm using a GameCube controller. My stick flicks were just absolutely insane because my hands were just shaking the whole time. But it's good to know that looked good.
And Cannonball was on Vault.
Yeah, I just saw that. So you needed boost ball in freaking feeding pit.
Yep.
Both of you were very late on that boost ball, and both of you had the information on where it was for a long time.
I know I felt a bit more confident based off the idea that, okay, how many of these checks actually need boost ball? And then I actually lost confidence thinking, oh, I gotta do quad, and I need boost for that. I'm not comfortable with the screw attack method onto the head, so...
Oh, yeah, you should learn what I do when there is only a key on Tumos, where you can just jump on the you do the first phase where you shoot the kneecaps, and then you can jump on his like the body, and then just screw attack to the energy controller. So you can skip the second 2 phases of that fight.
The caveat to that is you only get one attempt on your way back, because since you're leaving the boss fight unfinished, you never trigger the layer change that raises the platform in the middle. So if you fall on your way out of the energy controller, that is a soft lock.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, that's why I saved going in. Um just cuz yeah, I have absolutely fell in that room a couple times. Actually, in my practice run before this, I fell doing that trick. So palms were sweating when I had to go for that jump. So, um, but yeah, if I could explain my mid-game routing, because I don't know how confused you were, but so what happened was once I basically cleared out the hints in Torvis and knew where everything was, other than Grab, I think. Um, I thought let's just do a quick peek into Sank to see if Grav's there, and then I'll get Cobalt and come back. And then while I was there, I probably debated about like just abandoning checks and then and then just going for the out of bounds about 50 times. Like I was gonna do quad and then just didn't for honestly, I don't know why. Um, yeah, like I said, my brain just turned to mush once I went into Sank. And then yeah, Steve, when I sent that UG in the race time, it's because I went out of bounds to get Cobalt, actually got it, but then fell and I couldn't get back up. So I had to reset out of there. And then honestly, not the worst thing because gravity was right next to boost ball, so that was kind of convenient.
Yeah, Steve, you were way earlier on that grav boost than JhavA was.
Oh yeah, no,
Oh,
that one.
you had that before me.
Yeah, as soon as I got through that section, I forget how my routing left me, but I wound up going through Aegon Temple through Sand Canyon and Vent Area A on my way to DS1, and I forget how I played that one out. Oh
Oh, so
yes,
you
'cause
were.
I did Battleground first.
Okay.
Once I finally put hands on Super, ew.
Yeah, that sucks.
I struggled with my thought process, and I just decided no, I'm gonna pop in through portal chamber, go do Battleground first, get light beam. Um, thinking that I could once again hot dogging the fact that no, I don't have dark beam, dark door blocks the portal. Haven't been around the other direction yet, so thinking I could use the portal back that side, but nope, messed up. So back to portal chamber I go, and then coming at dark beam from the other side. But since the checks were over there, I went through the temple, through Sand Canyon, through Vente, and back to Storage C that way.
Wow, I'm actually shocked that you had that gravity before me because if I had your routing, I think I probably finished this an hour earlier. Because once you had Cobalt, you had everything you needed.
Yeah, not grabbing that grav really did set you back. So this was actually a rather exciting race to watch because there was a good deal of back and forth. JhavA took an early lead through some movement optimizations, but Steve had slightly more efficient routing in Temple Grounds the first pass through, which got him back some time. But then you really struggled on the supers, and you took the lead back, JhavA. And from there, it was kind of equal until Steve grabbed the grav boost, at which point he started pulling ahead. The Your quad fight was really nice, JhavA, and that pretty much definitively got you back the lead.
I told myself that. Thank you, by the way. I appreciate the compliment. I told myself I knew I was probably behind at that point when I went to do quad, but I was like, you know what? He hasn't finished either, so I at least have a chance. So I debated about just fighting quad the normal way, but I'm like, if I have a chance, I need to skip him because I can't afford to lose any more time.
Yeah.
I did feel like my end game routing was, or just overall was very good. So I think that definitely helped.
Steve, on your side, I think your biggest time loss was those supers because
Yeah,
JhavA had them significantly quicker than you did.
yeah. The two resets on that end when I was seeking supers, and then hot dogging on that final Aegon key because I never did get to worms. I spent a lot of time messing around trying to find the third Aegon key.
Did you get the hint for the Aegon keys?
I did get the hint, but I had found I had hot dog top of ship. I went through GFMC after
Oh.
Jump Guardian, but I had hot dog top of ship. I came back to it later,
Hmm.
but
That
because it was only the two locations, I took the gamble of all right, no, let's clear Temple Grounds. So I checked FTA, checked Hall of Honor Dead, and I feel like I lost a lot of time on the back end hunting that final Aegon key that was in Arena Access.
Oh, that's the one you didn't. Okay. Yeah, when I got that hint, at this point this is when I just had no idea what to do. This was because I wanted to go for Cobalt without gravity. That took a long time just to reset out of there and not get it. And then checked Alpha Blog and just to see if it was the last key. It wasn't. So I knew it was on either Plaza Access, Plaza, or Hall of Honor Dead. So at that point, I just gunned it straight for the boost ball, and then stumbled on gravity, and then that was it from there.
Yeah.
Which keys were you missing?
Are we talking STKs?
Yeah.
Yeah, my last two that I needed to put in hand, or no, correction, three. I was in process of returning Sank Energy when you finished.
Oh, you just fought
Um,
Quad. Okay.
Yeah, I just finished fighting Quad. I was gonna head to Tumos, and then I had Ing Reliquary and Worms left.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it helped that much, but did you ever get Echo?
No.
Okay, you're in the room that it's in. It was in Watch Station. It was hinted, actually. I don't remember where.
I had that's yeah, maybe.
It was hinted in lower
Yeah,
Torvus.
exactly.
Or
4
no,
rooms away
it
from
was
react.
energy controller.
Yeah, it hinted exactly 4 rooms away from reactor core. I took that to mean it was on Spider Guardian. So I was like, nope, I'm not getting that. I'd already
Oh
dedicated
yeah,
wall crawl for the dark Dynamo Works, Hive Dynamo Works. So no, I was not even gonna check Spider Guardian
yeah,
when I came into watch.
that's a good call, probably. I just didn't know if at that I guess yeah, you were in go mode already. At that point I didn't know where gravity was, so I still picked it up.
When did you head to SDK hints? Because I feel like
Early. Before I even went to Torvus. I
Yeah.
went I had picked up basically I got light beam and then went for hints. I'm trying to think of what the order I did things was. Because early game I did early Aegon loop, did bomb guardian, did jump guardian, went back for space jump and was it fighter?
BMT had
Space
our
jump and then
Nikes.
fighter, and then I went back into Aegon, saw the main PBs, went back to GFMC, got Amber, dashed across Wind Chamber to get a suit, and then, then went back, got the hint for Dark Beam in FTA, went back to Aegon, got the hint for Supers in Mining Plaza, then went. Yeah,
that was another one of my bad deaths. Is I got that hint, and I'm like, "Oh snap! I know exactly where that's at." Yeah, me and my wonderfulness. I needed to do the roll jump, and no, I was tankless. I rolled
no
into
suit?
there I went straight in there,
Oh.
and I failed to realize that. Yeah, no, this is not exactly the time to be pulling this trick when you have no e-tanks.
Were you still suitless?
Yes, suitless as
Oh,
well.
yeah. I don't think you're getting there with Screw Attack. That would have been pretty tough.
So on the note of that suit, at what point did either of you realize that that suit meant that Screw Attack had to be in bioenergy?
Oh, as soon as I saw the hint for Supers. Because at that point, I had cleared out the rest of Aegon that was in Logic.
I was reverse. I hit bioenergy before I had any kind of hint or clue on suits. I believe the first suit hint I got was portal access or portal chamber.
Yeah, both of them were hinted in Aegon. There was a suit in Temple, and then there was the exact location, which was kind of nice in Portal Terminal.
Yeah.
So that had to be Light Suit. I just realized.
So,
Yeah, I only bring that up because both of you went to labs and turned around before going to bioenergy.
It's just such a long way to go for one check, and knowing that you're not going to find supers there, it's so long. But yeah, once I found the supers hint, I pretty much knew. I had two checks. It was Sand Cache or it was bioenergy. So when it wasn't in Sand Cache, I went straight there. Oh, thanks, Reed. I tried to spell out Reed in my final boss fight, but I don't think I did a very good job.
You were interrupted by a phazon cannon.
Yeah, I was trying to spell Reed ? But it didn't turn out very well. Oh, I am going to sleep so well after that.
Yep.
Both of you should feel very proud of what you did here today. This was by no means an easy seed.
Yeah, thanks for calming. This could not have been easy to calm solo at that. So
Marion was here for most of this, but he unfortunately had to leave before it was finished.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll pass.
He
along.
blessed the same hint twice, by the way.
What happened?
He willed the boost ball hint into existence for both of you at two different times in this race.
Awesome. Oh. Yeah, I think I've said all I need to. Just GG's. I cannot believe that we had to play this scene.
Yep. GG's. And Reed,
Yeah. We'll talk off stream where it's not family friendly.
Okay. JhavA, your next race, looking at the brackets, will be against TGC.
Oh, another rematch.
Speaking of rematches, Steve, I will be seeing you in the next race.
Ooh.
alrighty.
That'll be a good one.
But if neither of you have anything else that you would like to add, I would like to say, please follow these runners. They did a fantastic job. And we will see you next mission.
See you
Don't
next
forget
mission.
to follow Rico and Marion on comms as well.
Yes. Follow Frenzy. Alright. Take care, everyone.